What's up, James?
Nothing much, Just. What's up with you?
Not much, dude. I'm just ready to talk about A.E. Housman here.
A.E. Housman. They said he
Yes.
was a minor poet.
Yeah, a marvel. I heard he was a marvelously minor poet. So
Well, just because one is a minor poet doesn't mean that one doesn't have anything to say.
that's true, and that's what we're gonna get on into here on Verse Take.
So strap in, buckle up,
Right,
and
enjoy the ride. Yeah.
A.E. Housman. What are some of your impressions?
Well, he is a bit. A lot of people say this. I don't. I read probably like a third of the Shropshire Lad. I read like 20 poems out of Shropshire Lad in kind of preparation of this, and I knew of him from to athlete dying young, which spoiler alert.
That is his favorite.
Or,
No, I'm actually not doing that one, but
oh, you are. Oh, okay,
no, no,
okay.
no.
Well,
But that is his famous one.
right, right.
It's a bit
Uh,
long. I felt like it's a bit long.
yeah, and it's kind of like maybe it's his famous one for us here as American, readers or something. I think he has like a
Mm.
little bit more. It seems he has a little bit more panache, of course, in his home country, England. But he is a bit dark. He is a tad bit dark, and not. I wouldn't say like gloomy. He's not like Edgar Allan Poe dark, but there's like a little bit of a cynicism. There's not. He's not. He's not terribly optimistic
Mm.
poem, but he's also not someone who's going to bring you down.
No, he's. I think he's someone that there's a quiet beauty to his poetry, a quiet intensity.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe more melancholy than
Mm-hmm.
gloomy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is a bit of a sadness there, and there is a bit of that melancholy and sadness in the poem that I'll be doing today.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, poetry is one of those mediums that can capture sort of those smaller feelings, those feelings that are a bit harder to pin down, melancholy, nostalgia,
Mm-hmm.
um, sort of being a bit forlorn, maybe feeling a bit overlooked. So, poetry can capture some of those smaller, more nuanced emotions, and I think A.
Yep.
Housman, especially in his collection Shropshire Lad, captured those very
Right.
well.
Right. And also kind of this. There's a youthfulness about it, but there is almost like just like the poem to an athlete dying young. Some of his poems are about young men dying. Um, young. So it's kind of like a theme of his and also sort of this like lost innocence which kind of Shropshire Lad is about. It's kind of funny, it's actually a place he wasn't from, and I don't know if he actually ever went there or spent any time there,
Yeah,
but
I think he went there after the
oh
Shropshire Lad came
mm-hmm.
out.
Okay, yeah,
So
that's
kind of
yeah,
he didn't he actually did not go to Shropshire until after the
right.
the book of poems was released.
Yeah, it was just like an idyllic place. It'd be like us like writing about I don't know, being out in Montana, and like,
Lake
the
I
big
was gonna
sky
say
country.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lake Prefontaine or something like that, or Lake
Mhm.
Fontaine or something.
Yeah, yeah. Someplace we've never been, but we just imagine it's like,
Right.
beautiful and, where, you can be sort of almost like this Eden, a sort of Eden
Right.
that he's
Oh,
kind of left
and pardon
behind.
me, I meant to say Lake Champlain, not Fontaine. It's Lake Champlain. Is like a place that people sing about. They may not have actually ever gone there.
Hmm.
Lake Champlain or something like that.
The Beach Boys, they have that song. What's that one? Take you to um,
Oh, uh, was it? Is it Montego? Something like that.
yeah, like some,
Montego.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like not a real place.
Oh
It's
yeah.
something that
Like
they made up. Yeah, it's just made up
okay.
for the song. Yeah,
So there's not a real. I thought, but Montego Bay may be a real place, right?
and Montego Bay might be a real place, but whatever the place is that they sing about in there,
Mm-hmm.
um, isn't a real place.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I
I think
think
it
I did
starts with
hear
an
that.
O, doesn't it?
I
Oak,
don't know. Ohana. Ohana.
Oak. Okomo Beach or something like that.
Oh, Kokomo Beach. Yeah,
Kokomo
Kokomo.
Beach?
Yeah, Kokomo
Kokomo.
Beach.
Yeah, go to
Yeah,
Kokomo. Kokomo
right.
is not a
Yeah.
real place.
Okay,
That's not a
that's
real
not a real
place.
place. Oh,
Uh-uh.
okay.
No, no, no. Yeah,
Oh,
down in
okay. Well,
Kokomo. Yeah, that's just a yeah, that's kind of that's a made up place.
right, right.
Yeah, which is,
So,
almost
but
kind of like Shropshire.
yeah,
Yeah,
Shropshire is not. It's
is
not a
real.
made up place, but
Right.
it's a bit fictionalized.
Hmm.
You
And
know.
I listened to this podcast, in the podcast, hopefully they'll forgive me for forgetting who does it, but um he was talking about how like some people that went and visited Shropshire afterwards were like disappointed to find and learn that like there wasn't the steeple and there was no weather vane on a steeple there. Like there's like certain things that he wrote about that people, because people would afterwards like would make pilgrimages. They did the
Mm,
same thing with Wordsworth and the cottage. I forget the name of it that he and his sister lived in, and they walked in the Lake District. But people would go
mm.
and visit these places, and they're like hoping to go and see the things of Shropshire and kind of experience that, and it wasn't there.
They were a little disappointed.
Yeah, yeah, kind of,
Mm,
which is kind of funny.
that makes. I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, there'd be like someone coming and being like thinking they're going to go to New York and have like a wonderful experience, and they get mugged, and it'd like be
Well, that is something. Have you heard that? Like the Paris syndrome, thinking
yeah,
they
yep,
save up all
hmm,
that money and spend all
right,
that time wanting to go to
yep,
Paris, and
right, right, and it's
it's
not all that,
shitty, and
right.
they want to jump off the bridge. They want to jump off the Arc de Triomphe. But hey, so well, they say don't meet your heroes,
Right, they do say that.
so keep your idyllic cities in your head, I guess. But
Yep.
so when A.E. Housman, this is a person, he actually did not think of himself as a poet.
Correct. Yep, that
He
is a good point
considered
to
he
make.
kind of considered himself a bit more of a academic, and maybe
Hmm.
poetry kind of would help him, I guess, relieve his feelings, or
Yeah, I think he had maybe some impulses that he had to uh
maybe that he'd like
let's
to
see.
push down.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, deep down. No, that's yeah, no, that's funny. The thing is we think of him more of a poet because like we're introduced to him in school. Like I think in high
Mm,
school and in college, I had English classes that, we did to an athlete dying young.
mm,
Read it in both. And but maybe we would have more experience with him if we were into classical literature, because he is wrote, several, like I think three Latin, translations that are considered like the definitive versions of those. And so he was someone who poetry is not his main gig. Let's say
right,
that.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why there are actually only two books of poetry that were released: the Shropshire Lad
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
what was the other one,
I
Justin?
think it was late poems or later poems,
Yeah,
but
late
it's just
poems.
basic, yeah, just
Did
basically his
didn't even
collect,
really have a title, so
yeah, yeah, just some collected poems. Like, hey, here you go. And most of his poems he doesn't even title. He's not
right.
like a serious poet, He almost
Mm,
kind of treats this like it's like I don't know, just like I don't know, fun and games, I guess. I don't know.
maybe like a hobby. I mean, this is a guy who's
Mm-hmm.
he almost hobby horsed his way into history. Especially with an athlete
In
dying
regards to
young.
poetry, yeah, yeah. If you were
In
just
regards to poetry, for sure.
right, yeah.
Which I
Um,
think that is what he is best known for,
Probably like most widely, yeah, because I
most
mean,
widely known.
who is really, in this day and age, reading classic literature? I mean, not
I
many
don't know,
people. People are certainly, but not many.
right? If and so for most people encounter the work of A. Housman through English classes in
Hmm.
high school and
Hmm.
college.
Right. Which is kind of interesting, maybe sort of the abilities. the skills that he picked up from translating Greek and Latin poetry and uh, literature and studying that to him writing his poems, even though
Mm,
they're not like filled with classical allusions like some poets are, maybe a bit to a fault, like John Keats,
mm,
who was kind of seen as like this cockney, kind of out of his depth, um,
right,
for him it seems a bit more a bit more maybe natural, or like a bit more maybe nonchalant, um
right.
it's yeah, it comes off a little easier,
Yeah, that's a very good
It's
point. Very good point.
yeah, just an interesting thing about the guy. But hey, you want to get start digging into these poems, because we each brought one.
Sure. Do you? Who did we go first last week? Did I go first, or did you go first?
I think I went first last time, but at the same
Okay,
time I can do it again.
I'll go first. And the poem that I'm going to do is actually, you know, it is a Shropshire Lad. It is the 40th poem in a Shropshire Lad, but it is colloquially known as "Into My Heart, an Air That Kills." So I will
Mhm.
be sharing my screen now. All right, going to share that screen. A.E. Housman, "Into My Heart, that an Air That Kills." And this poem will definitely capture, some of the nostalgia and sort of melancholy that we spoke of, that he's sort of known for. And it's a pretty famous one, and without further ado, I'll, you know, read it. A Shropshire Lad, number 40. Into my heart an air that kills. From yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires, what farms are those? That is the land of lost content. I see it shining plain. The happy highways where I went and cannot come again. So that was a Shropshire Lad, number 40. Some of the initial reactions, kind of sad, a little melancholy, like I said.
Mhm.
The land
Nostalgic.
of the land of lost content, we can see it in our mind's eye. We all can see our childhood or see the days of our youth, but we cannot go there. And I've even gone back to the old places I used to haunt when I was younger. Go back to the old bars I used to go to, and it's always different. It's never
Mhm.
the same. You can never quite reclaim, those happy highways that
Mhm.
Houseman speaks of.
Yep. Yeah, it's that's a poem that, he does a great job of capturing that sort of nostalgia. I mean, this is certainly a human experience. And I think that's why this poem has kind of stuck out almost as like, this is almost like this is like the A Shropshire Lad poem right here.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of like sums up the whole thing. So, um, and it does it so well. It's almost like a Bob Seger song or like a Bruce Springsteen song,
Mm,
like that,
mm-hmm.
like that sort of, or even like that first out Tom Waits album. These young artists, because I think he's in his 30s at the point when this came out, and you know, sort of a relatively young guy, talking about things that are, sort of maybe even beyond his years, or, maybe not, but also, having this sort of nostalgia for something that actually has never happened. Because,
Mm,
like we had mentioned before, Shropshire, there are no spires,
mm,
these things that people looked for, this is sort of it's kind of, I guess it's abstract, because we can all sort of um relate to this to a degree, but it's also it's yeah, it's just it's sort of abstract in that it's kind of make believe.
I think the word you're looking for is a pastiche. I think that's what they call
Mm,
it
mm-hmm,
when
mm-hmm.
it's
Yes, yes, it is. Yep, yep,
where
you're right.
it's
This is
a
an
it
early version of pastiche. Yes.
right, exactly. And
Hmm.
to be more accurate, that word is more commonly applied to like, maybe like a movie that was set in the 50s yet no one's talking about any sort of racism, or a move, like it's sort of an idealized look at the past.
Right, right, right.
And
And that yes.
but instead of this being like an idealized look at a public past, we sort of have an ideal look at a private past. This is the private past of the poet.
Hmm. Hmm.
He remembers we don't get much detail. That's what I like about this. It kind of universalizes it. We don't exactly know what was it about his childhood that was,
Hmm.
that was so great, or what. All we do know that there was a land of content that he has lost, and there are happy highways that we cannot travel again.
Hmm.
Yet this is a place that he can see. He'll never he is a place he's lost. It's a place he
Hmm.
can't go back to, but it's
Hmm.
still a place he can see. And
Hmm. Hmm.
it is also a place that almost kills him. It stings.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've also
Yeah.
felt
Yes.
the sting of
Hmm.
nostalgia.
Yep. Hmm. Hmm.
I remember like
That's
I drove by my old high school and I see the
mm,
benches outside where me and all
mm,
my friends
hmm,
used to sit, and kind
hmm,
of
hmm.
you feel the sting of
Can't go
nostalgia.
back
This
there again.
even if I'm physically there, you know,
Right, right. Yeah.
you'll never go back there.
No, man. Yeah.
What are those blue remembered hills? What
Hmm. Hmm.
spires? What farms are those?
Right, right. I wonder too if that's like not even like a subtle like sort of like admittance of this is um fabricated.
What?
What are those? What are those blue
Mm,
remembered hills? What spires, what farms are those? That is the land of lost content, you know?
I
I see
see.
it shining plain. Yeah, I see it shining plain. That land of lost content. Yeah, and just almost shining like a mirage.
Mm, are shining like some sort of idealized thing. And I think when I read what are those blue remembered hills, I mean, I almost think that they might look familiar, but there's something about them.
Mhm,
The what implies
mhm,
there's something about them that is
mhm,
not understood. There's something
mhm,
about them that are
mhm.
beyond his grasp.
Right.
And into my heart an air that kills. It almost it almost is as if the air is killing us. Our breaths age us. In some ways, you could count the time that passed by my breaths that have gone in my lungs and gone into my body and gone out of my body.
Also, yeah. Also,
So
also
not
spirit.
also spirit, right? But the same spirit that is aging me is also giving me that sting of nostalgia when I look back and see.
Mhm.
It's almost like the wind from the land of lost content. It hurts a bit. It can hurt. It hurts a lot, maybe even more than a bit.
Mhm. Mhm. It also reminds me of maybe like Miniver Cheevy, with Edwin
Mm,
Arlington Robinson. I feel like these guys were taught about, around the same time usually in school,
yeah,
both kind
yeah.
of, being, 19th century, or not 19th century, but, 20th century, 1900s. But they just that, the kind of feeling you're talking about of like the pain of looking back at the pain of, seeing something that cannot be attained again, this sort of
Mm,
this kind of lost innocence, lost um, it's almost like this is almost like Adam, looking
right.
back on Eden.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, hey, we think of oftentimes child, our life as children as being, sort of this idyllic paradise.
And Eden, a place of innocence,
Mhm, mhm,
where we we had some sort of contentment, you know. Um, I don't know, when I think back, I don't know if I would say that I was a content child, but
mhm,
there definitely was some sort of naivete. There was some sort of definitely like a sort of blissful naivete that I think, you know, that has been lost to me.
mm, mhm.
So, no matter what, there is something that has almost passed, something that was never
Yep.
intended to last.
Yeah, 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 I mean, it's like, Frost, um, you know, nature's first, hue is gold, nothing gold can stay.
Mm,
First green is gold, her heart is hue to hold, um, early leaves to flower, but only so an hour, as leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief, so, what is it? So, uh, so dawn to what is it? Dawn to dusk,
I don't know.
nothing
I
gold
didn't
can
know.
stay. Darn it. But hey, I mean, this is kind of you have that. Milton, we're talking about Paradise Lost. Um, we kind of have this period, even with the Romantics. We're looking back. We've lost something. Shropshire Lad, and A.H. Housman, he's past, he's after the Romantics. And he's not like the Romantics, but he is like the Romantics in the sense that we're looking back on some, this pastoral, idyllic past
Mm,
that we've sort of lost, some sort of contentment, um, some point in which man and nature were kind of in symbiosis, more or less.
right, and it's interesting that you know, this is a Houseman writing in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is when people are moving away from the farms and beginning to industrialize.
Mm,
So,
yeah, yeah.
there not only is there a past the poet can't regain, there may be a past the public,
Hmm, hmm.
cannot regain at this
Right.
time because the romantics themselves are lamenting a sort of loss of there's a certain idealism that has been shattered post
Mm, hmm.
industrialization. And maybe there's an idealism that has been shattered post digitization for us. You know,
Perhaps, perhaps.
and maybe
Yeah.
that because I'm in my early 30s.
Hmm,
As I look back on my childhood, there was no beeps of computers and hums of
hmm.
modems and all
Right.
this, computer stuff. There was none of
Correct.
that.
Right. Yeah. Dude,
So
I
what are
remember, yeah, thinking that you could access the internet away from the computer was like mind blowing.
right? And not even there were not even phones. Like people barely had a
Right.
phone. I think my dad had a cell phone. Like what
Yeah,
are
I don't
those?
remember my
So
parents having a cell phone till I was like in middle school.
yeah.
Like maybe my mom might have had one. I think maybe like a flip phone or something. I don't wasn't that big of a deal.
So what are those blue remembered hills? What spires? What farms are those? So I don't know. Maybe times pass, times change. Humanity, maybe the pendulum swings between
Mhm.
periods of ultra knowledge and periods of mysticism. I don't know.
Perhaps, perhaps.
But with a Shropshire Lad number 40, we have lost something,
Hmm,
and it
hmm.
does hurt, and the
Yeah.
poet is acknowledging it does sting for sure.
You can kind of see how because this collection of poems really took off in popularity during World War One, in which soldiers were like taking this with them to into the Great War, and like a poem like this, you can see how like in a time during World War One why this would like take on like such sort of popularity. Um, even though, yeah, I think it was written like, 20 year or published like 20 years prior, it was in late 1890s. So yeah, um, 20, 25 years later, it takes off in popularity, among, young soldiers that are, thinking about this, England,
Mm,
that they're fighting for, as they're away from home, um, some kind of idyllic state that they've lost and can't regain. Um, Kind of makes sort of perfect sense in that regard as well.
that is interesting. Yeah. So there are a lot of
Mm,
historical influences that I think that not only the poet was going through, but also the poem itself, as because as like we said, a Shropshire lad being a big read around World War I.
mhm,
I also like how the first stanza kind of presents the question, and I like how the second stanza answers it. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires? What farms are those?
mhm.
That is the land of lost content. You know, the
It's
land of
it's
lost content.
it's interesting because it's a question, and yet that question, the basically, that the sort of the second half of the first stanza. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires? What farms are those? That's a question, and yet it's an answer to the beginning of the stand. It's almost like
Mm,
the answer to the question of what is the heart, or what is the air into his heart that kills, that's blown in.
mm,
The
right.
answer almost is a question.
And I mean, because we have this colon here. It's like there's an air that came into his heart that's killing him,
Hmm. Hmm.
but the air actually takes the form of a
Hmm.
vision of blue
Hmm.
hills and
Hmm.
spires and farms.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I also
Something kind
like
of intangible.
right. And I also like the alliteration we the land of lost and then contrasted with the happy highways where I went. The land of lost content contrasted with the happy highways where I went cannot come again.
Like that. I kind of want to read it. That is the land of lost content. I see it shining plain. The happy highways where I went and cannot come again.
And it's flat out. There it is. There it is.
The happy highways where I went. That's pretty good.
And cannot come again. Cannot.
Hmm.
The
Yeah, yeah.
happy
Then those
highways
consonants, hard consonants there.
where I went.
Cannot come again. Again. I see it
Yeah,
shining plain.
this is
Yeah.
a good poem, man.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, hey, this guy, he knew his way around some words, okay?
For
He
sure.
could the best words in the best order. So, hey,
Well, I'm gonna read it
yep,
once more since it's so
yep, go
short,
ahead.
just to kind of close it out, and then we'll
Hmm.
get into the one that you have for us.
Hmm.
This is a Shropshire lad, number 40. Into my heart an air that kills from yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires? What farms are those? That is the land of lost content. I see it shining plain. The happy highways where I went and cannot come again. Shropshire lad,
Yep.
A. Housman.
Yeah, big ups
And yours is also
from Shropshire Lad. Yeah. But number 15. Yes.
by A. E. Housman.
Right. And I got it right here. Which, just for for the audience, whoever is out there interested, this is only $8.50
Mm.
on Amazon. So, um it's really, that's the great thing about our current society and our, devaluation of, I don't know, the arts is that you can get something like this for just $8.50. But anyways,
A steal.
yes, yeah. All right, so Shropshire Lad, number 15. Look not in my eyes, for fear they mirror true the sight I see, and there you find your face too clear, and love it and be lost like me. One the long nights through must lie, spent in star-defeated sighs. But why should you as well as I perish? Gaze not in my eyes. A Grecian lad, as I hear tell, one that many loved in vain, looked into a forest well, and never looked away again. There, when the turf in springtime flowers, with downward eye and gazes sad, stands amid the glancing showers a jonquil, not a Grecian lad. I might have pronounced that a little funny, that jonquil, but it's kind of a tough one for me to say.
Uh,
But
what does it mean? Jean, I would have
that's
probably said Jean Qui.
jonqui. Maybe it is jonqui. That might be good. Because I actually don't know how to pronounce this, but I do know that it is a maybe jonqui might be, yeah, because it does look French, doesn't it? It is, and that would be Latin, because that is a flower. It is a
Mm,
daffodil, kind of like a daffodil. It is in the Narcissus family of um, of flowers, which
mm.
that kind of,
The myth
you
of
know,
Narcissus.
right, yes, and that's sort of what this is in reference to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I kind of I found I enjoy that. I appreciate that, that little tidbit there. Because I had to look it up. I was like, what is that,
Mm,
and yeah, it's a flower. And so, you know, this is one of those poems that sort of highlights or shows that although he didn't have a ton of classical illusions like we were kind of talking about earlier, this is one of them,
mm,
and kind of shows his kind of knowledge of um, sort of classical, I guess, myths and stories, but it also kind of highlights maybe a little bit of a personal touch of his personal life, because these poems kind of came out after. There's like a little bit of drama with A.E. Housman. We haven't gotten into it too much, but we don't know for certain. I mean, supposedly, he had kind of confessed his love for his friend Moses Jackson, that he, had lived with in two different, periods of his life, and his friend Moses Jackson. Um, got married without A.E. Housman's knowing, and, left the country. Um, I don't know why he felt like, doing something so dramatic like that, but he
mm,
did. And after that had happened, um, he released these Shropshire Lad poems. And this one might be, referencing to, it may actually in fact be a young man that is the sort of the apple of his eye, that he's warning to not to look into his eyes in this moment,
mm,
because it is about a Grecian lad, the myth. So there's a few different things at play here, but I think it's a pretty clever poem, you know, and I appreciate the sort of the classical illusion.
mm.
What are your impressions?
Well, I appreciate the classical illusion. I it's kind of the whole thing. Like, there almost is a sort of, I guess there's a certain danger into staring into someone's eyes.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Staring into someone's eyes. There's almost something existential. You
mm-hmm,
know,
mm-hmm,
and the whole the but why should you as well as I perish?
mm-hmm,
Gaze not in
mm-hmm.
my eyes.
Yeah.
There's almost something about love being in vain here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, how if the love were sort of allowed to bloom, maybe it would be destructive or something. There's almost like a
Yeah.
certain fear here, you
Mm,
know.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Um,
it you
so
know,
I don't know,
go
you know,
going along with
love
that,
hurts.
yeah, yeah, that's yeah, it does. But going along with that too, it's reminding me now of, like, Oscar Wilde's who right around the same time, Oscar Wilde's picture of Dorian Gray, you know,
Mm,
in which, he's saying, like, "Don't, don't look not into my eyes and see, this sort of" 'cause I am seeing you as, like, this idyllic version of yourself almost, or like a
mm,
perfect version of yourself. If you look into my eyes and see that version of you, you too might fall in love, with that perfect version of yourself, you know, that
okay.
is not in reality. And, in the picture of Dorian Gray, he's this, Dorian Gray is this young, good-looking man who is just, almost like the embodiment of innocence, sort of much like Billy Budd. And the painter, I want to say his name is Basil, um, paints him, paints this beautiful photo, this beautiful portrait of him that sort of almost captures his innocence, and then Dorian Gray ends up, doing all these sort of horrible things and, eventually killing the painter, sort of a rejection of this person who made a perfect version of himself. He could only sin from there. I feel like A.E. Housman, it almost kind of carries the same, um, kind of almost like kind of sentiment with it, in that he's like, "Hey, I'm creating a perfect version of you. Don't look into it." What do you think of that?
I mean, I can also see that. I can definitely see that. Um, like maybe if you look were to look too close into his eyes, you would see, yourself, your the true beauty of yourself, and maybe you would fall in love with your ego or your sense of yourself, as opposed to falling in love with the person who reflected that look to you. Um, just almost like how Narcissus, fell in love with his own reflection.
You know, this is also um, kind of like this like perfect sort of angsty, longing poem. Um, you know, One the long nights spent through must lie, spent in star-defeated sighs. He's just laying in bed like, "If only I could be with Moses Jackson." Uh, yeah, and, these
But
star-defeated, yeah.
the myth of Narcissus is kind of like, you know, Nar- the water allowed Narcissus
Yeah,
to like see his beauty.
exactly. Right, yeah, exactly.
He fell in love with his
Mhm.
beauty.
Right, right.
And A. Houseman's almost like warning his lover, don't fall in love with like your beauty or your power over me or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah, 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 because that's what I would say, like, it's like because beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So
Right,
if you're gonna look into my eyes and see how I see you,
right,
you're gonna see some beautiful creature that you're gonna fall in love with.
right.
Here I am pining away for you, as if you're, something worth having. Um, which I also think is kind of funny because it's like this almost reminds me of like a Taking Back Sunday song or something like that.
Okay.
But why should you as well as I perish? Gaze not in my
Mm.
eyes. Almost like, you could slit my throat and I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt, like it's that same energy.
It's almost like remember to fall in love with real people,
Mm,
um
mm, mm.
because even though, because a lot of people, I mean, Narcissus, technically he did fall in love with himself,
Right,
but
right.
it was almost like with his beauty, which is
With his reflection.
right, with the attribute of himself that he could see.
Mm, mm-hmm,
He
mm-hmm.
fell in love with the attribute of himself that he could see, which
Yeah.
is what uh A. Houseman's almost warning
Hmm.
against. Don't
Yeah.
fall in love with that what you see of yourself,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there in that place when the turf in springtime flowers, with downward eye and gazes sad, stands amid the glancing showers.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like sort of like flowers, sort of um, a flower kind of bloom there instead of like where people would think to see this beautiful, kid.
Right. 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 Well, and it's no longer a kid either, but it's not like a fully formed person, but a flower. You know.
Right.
Um, is it interesting too? A Grecian lad, as I hear tell, one that many loved in vain. You know,
Mm-hmm.
sort of loved out of their own, um, out of their own kind of vanity. Wanted maybe something from him. You know.
They loved what they saw. What they loved what they saw, which is the same thing that Narcissus. He also loved what he saw.
Hmm. 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 And that could be, that reflection I'm thinking of it could be, your reflection that you could fall in love with could be, it could play out many different forms. It could be
Right.
a reflection as far as your numbers at work, your sort of, you see this, reflection of yourself in maybe your finances, your money, maybe your lover, or, in the mirror,
Right.
um, and you can kind of become hyper focused on it and sort of atrophy, kind of around, just focusing on that one thing because then, he ends up becoming just a flower, just a beautiful thing to look at that passes and dies.
Because because if you think about it, Narcissus wasn't the type of person that deserved all the praise that was lauded on him, because he was basically superficial. He was
Hmm.
skin,
Hmm.
they all loved him. They loved him in
Right.
vain, but he was just some
Hmm.
superficial guy. He was
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
superficial, he fell in love with the surface of the water, you
Yeah,
know?
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Surface of the water, and became a thing that is only admired for
Right.
its beauty because flowers have no, I mean, to us, have no other
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Correct. I know everything with like bees and all
Right,
that.
right.
They do have a greater purpose, but um, and if
Symbolically, they grow, they wilt, they die.
exactly, exactly, they're only for beauty because we have no functional use for flowers.
We don't eat
Um,
them.
right. Yeah. Exactly. Um, and they are the reproductive organs of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
um, with they are sort of the fruit of that plant. Um, it's just it is kind of interesting. It's sort of that is like the show of to how it flowers, how a plant flowers, kind of kind of shows you the health of the plant. You know.
And now that I read this poem again, the back half of the second stanza there, when the turf in springtime flowers, flowers as
Hmm.
a verb, when the turf
Right.
flowers,
Yes. Yep.
when the turf does bloom,
Hmm.
with downward eye and gazes sad, like if you were like looking down about yourself, feeling sad,
Hmm.
stands
Right.
amid the
Right.
glancing showers, a jonquil, not a Grecian lad.
Yeah. Just another flower. Yeah, and you can kind of picture them. You know.
Right. Or I think I almost think of the with downward eye and gaze is sad is almost like the poet himself when he's like walking in spring.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
Stands amid the glancing showers, a jonquil.
Yeah, maybe like the poet's coming back around because he has other poems that talk about, kind of seeing, um, kind of seeing the truth of like that whoever he's kind of writing about isn't all that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
per se.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what he's kind of saying here. Like if you kind of fall in love with how I see you and you kind of live to that, you become that flower, that narcissist, then I'm gonna come back around this time next spring and kind of be looking down on you like, damn, they're just a flower.
One the long nights through must lie, spent in star defeated sighs. You know, this like this almost like the star-crossed
Mhm.
lovers. You know, he
It
was
is.
defeat.
That
He
is
was
right.
he
I
was
wanted to make that
defeated by
point
the
earlier. Yeah.
stars.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Right, and that star-crossed lovers, I mean, that'd be well known, in A.
Right.
Housman's time, just as it is in ours. Yep. Star defeated size because he's realized, like, hey, we'll never be together.
He's almost like, I'm crazy about you. You shouldn't be crazy about yourself.
Right, right, yeah.
And there you find your face too clear and love
Mm-hmm.
it and be
Mm-hmm.
lost like me.
Right. Because in this, the speaker of the poem is in love with this person, the object.
Right.
There is never any question of whether the object is in love with the speaker.
The speaker hopes the object doesn't see how desperate he is,
Mm-hmm.
or else the
Mm,
object may begin to be like, oh, well, if I got him strung along like this,
mm-hmm.
I
I
must
must
really
be
be. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So the object, there seems to be there's no the object does not love the speaker, and it seems
Right.
like there's not even a possibility of that. It doesn't even leave that open as a possibility.
But I think the speaker by the end realizes that he's just something pretty to look at, you know.
Could be.
Um,
Mm,
because I don't know. There's almost something about the flower. The flower almost takes the place of the person.
right, yeah, because he's like asking him, don't like live up to this, like just like
Hmm.
almost like go your way, do
Right.
your thing, don't be what I think you are, and because I think you're everything, I think you're great, you start
And,
going around and acting like you're great. I mean, it might, yeah.
and then when springtime flowers, it just flowers.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not a person. You know.
Mm-mm.
Maybe he's saying the Grecian lad is not God's gift to earth.
Well, because think of even Grecian, you're like, oh, this guy's built like a Greek god,
Right.
even at that time, like sort of the Grecian figure is almost like seen as like an ideal image of like the human figure,
Right.
So it's not a Grecian lad anymore. It's not like the almost like the perfection, like a perfect form of a boy, a human person.
Right.
It's now just this pretty flower.
Yeah.
So
Hey.
hey, that's that I think that the two poems that we chose, even though we didn't necessarily think about this beforehand, yours kind of shows the the contentment that was lost, this
Hmm.
idyllic place, and then mine shows like sort of the interpersonal where maybe that feeling of coming around and this feeling of like losing this idyllic place might be through losing this sort of maybe idyllic relationship or some kind of idea that he had in his head about his friend Moses. I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, I think so. Those are. But a Shropshire lad, it is sort of about loss and getting older and time
Mm-hmm.
passing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
these sorts of
it
things.
reminds me of T.S. Eliot's Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock too.
Mm,
It's funny how
mm,
all these things kind of, you can draw lines between all of them, but
right.
um, yeah, I mean, hey, that's the great conversation.
Hey,
So, hey, do you think I should give this one another read, or
yeah,
what do you think?
yeah, sure. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yep, we'll go ahead and close it out here. So, Shropshire Lad 15. Look not in my eyes, for fear they mirror true the sight I see, and there you find your face too clear, and love it and be lost like me. One the long nights through must lie, spent in star defeated sighs. But why should you as well as I perish? Gaze not in my eyes. A Grecian lad, as I hear tell, one that many loved in vain, looked into a forest well and never looked away again. There, when the turf in springtime flowers, with downward eye and gazes sad, stands amid the glancing showers a jonquil, not a Grecian lad. So I chose the more French pronunciation there.
Yeah, I think I did go back and forth. I think I said John Quill and then I said Jonqui. I don't
I've
know.
never heard anyone say it, so
Me neither.
I'd have
It
to
could
look it
it
up.
could it could very well be John Quill. It could be English John Quill. I don't know. I don't know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful poem, man. Beautiful
hmm
poem.
hmm
Great stuff.
Great stuff. Yeah,
It's
really
A.E.
good stuff, A.
Housman,
Housman. A solid, really solid, a marvelously minor poet.
a marvelously minor poet. He's definitely one that you can pad out your
hmm
your
hmm
sort of poetic palette with.
hmm
Pad your poetic palette with A.E. Housman.
Yeah. Try it today.
Yeah. So hey man,
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, that's kind of a wrap for me. I mean, I don't really have anything else.
Hey, I mean, dude, I mean, look, if you don't have anything, I don't have anything, okay? Don't look into my eyes, okay? And try. No, that's I think A. Houseman, he's definitely one that is, kind of worthwhile, a bit patriotic. Um, and you can kind of see maybe an earlier time through his eyes a little bit, get a little blast from the past. Someone who's in between the romantics and then the later modernists. Not a modernist, not a romantic.
Kind of and barely a poet.
Yeah,
You
not
know.
even really a poet. It's incredible how good he was, and yet this wasn't like his focus.
Yeah. So check it out. And the
Yeah,
Shropshire Lad is in the public domain, by the way. So
right, yeah, exactly. So you don't have to spend 850 like I did,
you
but
don't even
if
have
you
to
just
spend the $8.
no,
But if you
no.
want to hold it and just touch it, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Which could be
That's
worthwhile.
that's just me. But
But
eh, eh,
I love the public domain. I think it's good that so much is just available.
it is true. It is
And
true.
it's even better that you know, be the fact that it's in the public domain does put limits on how much book companies can charge
hmm
for it.
hmm
So that's why it's only $8 for a book. And they can't hit you over the head because it's public domain. So
Yeah. But if you go for like the leather bound version of some of his
oh yeah, yeah,
books, or
yeah,
even Edwin Arlington Robinson, you're going like 50, $60. But one day I too hope to uh be in the public domain. Um, if I you know pray to be one time become part of the public domain.
yeah. Right. And I play bass in a jam band called Public Domain. We will be playing at so
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah,
public domain.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
kidding.
I am a part of I am public domain. It's actually my rap moniker.
PD.
Public domain. Yeah,
That wouldn't be the worst rap name I've ever heard.
yeah. I have the group. My group is PDA, so Public Domain Association.
Okay. I thought you guys were the Wrecking Crew or something.
PDA, the public domain affiliates. Yep. But
Well,
all right, man. Hey, A.E. Housman. Next week we're going Edwin Arlington Robinson. We're kind of
right.
sticking in the sort of 1900s. 20th century. But obviously we're going across the Atlantic for our next episode here.
That is correct. And we will be back then with a
Yep.
brand new episode.
Like, comment, subscribe now.
Get in the comments, do it.
Yeah.
But I'm
Just
James,
and I've been Justin.
and I guess this is a wrap ski. We'll see you guys next time. Signing off. All right, that was good. And you can still
Yeah.
make it to your barbecue.
I don't know if you noticed, but we had a little bit of a hiccup there.
Did we?